Welcome back to the channel, Union Arena players. My name is Damos, and today I'm here with the Union Arena Community Feedback Survey results. This survey was something I threw together because I believe it's incredibly important to see what the players are saying and be able to compare those thoughts all in one spot. Unfortunately, we don't see the results of the official surveys, but I can't stress enough the importance of filling those out because Bandai has proven that they are listening. So if you haven't already, make sure to fill out the Black Clover survey for both the starter deck and booster pack. It's essentially the same survey with minor differences, but that's 2 submissions you can make to have your voice heard. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the survey results by you, the community. We had a huge turnout of 92 submissions at the time of recording, so thank you for taking the time, and let's check out the community's feedback. And as a note, I didn't participate in the survey, so I wouldn't skew the survey results in any specific direction. Anyways, first up, we had a question that's on the official survey. I wanted to take a few questions from the official survey to try and see the type of data that Bandai's getting. The question was, what type of player best describes you? Very simple. Looks like most people who filled out the survey are competitive, but not by much. About 48% of players chose competitive and 43% chose casual. It's also good to see that we have some collectors in the community taking part of this survey as well. For the second question, it was another one available on the official survey, and for this one, I was actually shocked. I really expected those numbers to go the other way. Looks like 55% of people who filled out this survey said that Union Arena is their main trading card game. I'm definitely curious to know if Bandai's surveys are similar to this metric or not, and how much this specific question has changed over time. I know in the beginning of the game, I wasn't clicking yes for this question, but after a few months, I started to and made Union Arena my main game. Next is the first new question I presented to players, and an important one to pay attention to, especially with the next question coming up. Are you able to access Union Arena product in your area? The nice thing is that it looks like most people said yes with 77%, and 18% said sometimes. Unfortunately, there are a few players who are not able to access the game in their area, but I'm especially glad that they're taking part in this survey as well, so we can get the opinions from every type of player. To pair with the previous question, how many local stores in your area support Union Arena? This one is all over the place. Personally, I'm in an area with 5+ stores, and it looks like about 30% of players are as well. However, the next largest metric has about 23% of players only having one store in their area that supports Union Arena. That is unfortunate, as that could mean potentially a store that's close by or a store that's maybe 30+ minutes away, but still considered in their area. It's definitely good to see this specific breakdown, as someone like me who has a bunch of stores that at least carry the product might think completely differently from someone who has only 1 or 2 stores in their area. And to piggyback off that last question, probably the most important question of the 3 is, do the local card stores near you even get enough product for your community? And it looks like 30% of players said yes, which is to be expected since about 30% said they have about 5+ stores in their area. But in my opinion, the more important answers are the red and yellow portions of the pie chart. 31% of players said most do, but some don't, and 23% of players said that some stores get enough, but most in their area do not. That's honestly a really unfortunate thing to hear, that stores just don't get enough product for the community. I know in my area, one of the stores I frequent a lot orders multiple cases of each set and only receives like 2 to 4 boxes. I don't believe this is something that Bandai has direct control over. However, it is something they need to pay attention to, as it's the distributor's job to get Bandai's product out to the stores that order the product. For the next 3 questions, they were all pulled from the official survey. First, we have the question, what are you most wanting to see in future Union Arena products? I say the same thing in the official surveys every time, and it looks like a lot of people agree that we just want a title that we like joining the game. It is good to note that 30% of players did say they wanted titles to be simul-released with Japan. I think this can definitely work in the future, but Japan's meta may need to slow down for a while, or possibly their releases may need to be spaced farther apart to get us caught up. And this question goes a bit deeper into discussing the Japanese sets and asks which sets that are already announced do you want to see come to the English version of the game. I do want to note that the official survey only lets you choose 3. However, I let everyone choose as many as they wanted. I thought it would be more beneficial so we can get more data for this question. Also, these are listed in order from their original releases and announcements, with To Love Ru being one of the newest sets they've announced. To probably nobody's surprise, My Hero is in the lead with 37 votes, and ReZero is in a close second with 34 votes. Also, a special shout out to Kamen Rider, a mainly Japanese exclusive show, getting 18 votes, while other Japanese exclusive shows like Me and Roboco got 0. My personal 3 picks for the official surveys have pretty much always been Blue Lock, Haikyuu, and Code Geass Rose of the Recapture. Unfortunately for both Blue Lock and Haikyuu, even if they were announced tomorrow, the sets we're already getting before they could be released are just way stronger. With Sword Art Online Volume 2 around the corner and a lot of other sets getting their Volume 2 support as well, we may not get some sets like these even if they're popular without specifically getting a Volume 2 support or maybe some new promos to boost the power a little. It's quite unfortunate because you can see that there's a lot of popular anime on this list, and we just might never see them come to the game for the simple fact that players might not buy them because the cards aren't great. We saw that happen with Demon Slayer. The cards weren't the best, and despite Demon Slayer's huge popularity, the cards' values are just in the gutter. There's multiple $40 2 stars, and most of the SRs aren't really worth anything because they're just not good to play against the current meta. It's sad to see, but that's just how it may end up playing out. And for the next one that Bandai also asks us is about other popular titles that they deemed worthy and which, if any, you'd like to see come to the game. It's nice to have a list of other titles they're considering, but I would definitely like to see this list expanded on in the official survey in the future. There's obvious things missing from this list that we can get into in the next question, but as for these specific options, it looks like Dandadan is in the lead with 60 votes, followed by Chainsaw Man and Freyrin. My personal choice on this question has always been Fire Force and Freyrin. I do like multiple other anime on this list, however, I'd prefer anime that aren't on this list over ones that are. Speaking of anime that aren't on this list, I asked players if they could bring any one title to the English version of Union Arena and what would it be. Now, if you look over this list, it's not a whole lot of options like you'd expect. The question wasn't required to fill out on the survey, and because of that, there were a lot of people who didn't answer, but there were a lot of different answers as well. On this specific pie chart, I only included the choices that received 2 or more votes. As you can see, Naruto received the most votes with 13 people saying they wanted that. Gurren Lagann and Konosuba also received more votes than most with 4 and 3. If I had to choose one anime to come to Union Arena, I'd choose Food Wars. I know the altarts would go crazy. And as for the rest of the suggestions made, here's a full list of what players submitted. Again, not everyone answered this question, and obviously there were a lot of similar answers, so there's not going to be 92 different suggestions. With the next couple questions, I wanted to tackle events and gather data on all things event related, starting with this question. Which event, if any, have you participated in since the official launch of the English version of Union Arena? It looks like most players have been to a release event and a local, as well as a rare battle. We did get some players who submitted that they participated in Bandai Fest and the large-scale rare battles as well. And surprisingly, we also received 12 votes for players who hadn't attended a single event, which is honestly great for the survey since we're getting such a diverse responses. It means we get to hear from all types of people who enjoy the game. The next question asks about players' general thoughts on pricing. I limited this question to only one answer, so everyone had to choose the answer that they most agreed with. It looks like most players think local event pricing is okay with 51 out of 92 people, but another important bit of data is that over everything else, 15 people voted that large event pricing is bad. This is important to take note of because the next large scale event that isn't a rare battle is the Gen Con Regional. This event's pricing is significantly better than the one we had in Orlando earlier this year in January. This survey was also made available well after the Gen Con pricing announcement, so I'd like to think they knew about this already and they still think it's not great, not okay, but bad. I personally think Bandai has moved in the right direction with exclusive versions of cards and things of that nature, but I personally do think it's just okay. I don't think we're there yet, and it seems like some of the players agree with that statement. Diving a bit deeper into pricing, I asked players what they would suggest to Bandai if given the chance to improve pricing. There were a lot of answers, and so I tried to write down the main points that players suggested. Let's take a look. More pricing for large-scale events as well as exclusive pricing. Sealed packs that contained winner cards were also suggested for the local events, so cards had more value as there would be a chance involved, as well as having a chance to hit a rare variant of a winner card or exclusive art for a winner card. This just helps add value to the cards as well as probably increases attendance to locals, as you won't be able to just go to a few and get exactly the cards you want. A popular suggestion was promos and action points with different art. If you remember the participation pack we received for the most recent store tournament kits, they have cards with the same art as the AP pack that you also get at the same event. Everything is the same about it down to the background. The only difference is that one says action point and the other has card text. It's definitely lazy in my opinion, so I agree with this one. Exclusive signature cards was also mentioned as special event pricing, whether that's large scale or the rare battles. This is a cool suggestion and maybe something they could do specifically for large scale rare battles. I feel if they did it for normal rare battles that you could just go to locally, it takes away from the whole reason you'd want to attend a large scale rare battle. A larger variety of promos I think is also a good suggestion, as if there's more winner cards to choose from, then you'll have to attend more events to get them. I'd particularly make it so there was less winner cards given in each tournament. Instead of top 3 or 4 getting winners, I'd suggest top 2 only, but there's maybe 8 to 10 cards to choose from. That's if a sealed winner pack wasn't included instead. An interesting suggestion, though, was North American exclusive alt arts. We had something similar to this with the 3-star Asta that only has a signature here in the English version of the game, and also with Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen folder cards having the non-alt art versions in our booster sets. So it's absolutely possible for Bandai to change sets and rarities and alt arts, but who knows if they'd ever cater to the English version over Japan. Some players want the simple stuff though. Just getting better cards as pricing would be way more beneficial. I think the biggest example of this is the alt art Red Nezuko included in the Rare Battle Event Pack Volume 2. That card is just not used in any version of Red Demon Slayer because it's not a good card. So that begs the question, why did Bandai choose to give it an alt art? Honestly, only they know that answer. Then the last couple are more suggestions for different types of pricing for local and large events like playmats, deck boxes, sleeves, uncut sheets, and more promo packs. Personally, I'd like the idea of uncut sheets, but if I had to make a suggestion, it would be giant cards. I know Union Arena has them since they have them displayed at multiple Bandai Fests and conventions just to take pictures with, and for their other games, stores are sent oversized cards too, so I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. They're just an awesome piece, especially for collectors to show our love for the game and specific IP. An obvious suggestion was to do cash prizes, which honestly I don't think is very likely, but who knows. And lastly is to take after Bandai's other card games like One Piece and Dragon Ball Fusion World. I personally can't say exactly what this means as I haven't played either, but I know multiple people suggested both games as a point of reference. The last question about events is about how many offline regionals they'd like to see throughout the current season. So this would be considered large-scale events to get your invite to the Union Arena Championship North America Finals early next year. Looks like around 20% of people said 1 to 5 that they'd like to see. 41% said 5 to 10, and 39% said they'd like to see 10 plus regionals. Personally, I agree that there should be a lot. It sounds like this is unrealistic though with how other Bandai games seem to be run, but I think like how large scale rare battles are run by specific stores, there could be a chance for silver or gold tier stores to host a regional for their state. That way, most states could have the chance to receive a regional either at a large store or a convention center. This would also allow players to be able to travel to multiple regionals on their side of the country to try and secure their invite. And for the last section of the survey, we're going to go over game improvements. And on this question, I ask what players think about alt art cards. Everyone was only able to choose one answer they most agreed with or write in their own, which it looks like only one person did at the very bottom. I personally agree with what most of the responders said. 45% of players said they think SR star and higher rarity cards could be improved by actually giving us alt art cards and not just full art cards. Most SR 1-star cards are the same art as their SR counterparts, and they just have a different background. This seems super lazy and doesn't really feel special to me. 33% of players did say they do love alt arts though, so a lot of players might not care that much, to be honest. For the next question, it deals with signature and serialized cards. As you can see here, 34% like both, and 30% chose that they prefer signatures over serials. About 11% said they'd like to see serials that have signatures on them, and another 11% agree with my personal choice to have us get the serial APs in sets like the Japanese version of the game with signatures for character cards. They also have signatures on APs in Japan, so that would be interesting too. And a huge point of discussion within the community recently deals with removing cards from the English release. So I wanted to include this question to get everyone's opinion on it. I wanted to see what everyone thought of the developers removing cards from the English release of the game, and about 20% of players like the fact that Bandai is trying to balance the game. And I agree to an extent, but I mainly agree with 43% of players in believing that they should release the cards and make adjustments through the banned and restricted cards list, like with the Yuji and Sukuna. Now, 29% of people said they just don't want the cards to be removed, and however it turns out is good for them. My next question asked about an online game of some sort. I let everyone choose as many options as they wanted, and it looks like most players think an online version would be good for the game. However, 14 people adamantly said they wouldn't spend money on an online version, but 19 people said they probably would. 2 people also said they probably wouldn't play an online version of Union Arena, and 6 people said they think just updating the tutorial app with the newest starter deck is enough. For the next question, I asked players if they could ask Bandai one thing to specifically improve Union Arena, what would they ask? Here's the common suggestions between everybody who responded. Product availability was a common suggestion, which makes sense since we saw that in an earlier question. Players don't want cards cut for the English release, which we also talked about earlier. More large-scale tournament announcements. I agree with this. Bandai definitely needs to announce these regionals and other large-scale tournaments, as we really don't have a lot of info yet. Luckily, we did just get an announcement for Bandai Fest Texas coming up in September, but before last week, we hadn't heard anything for about a month and a half since the Gen Con regional announcement. I definitely understand having to confirm venues and things of that nature, but it seems like Bandai is moving in the direction of conventions and Bandai Fests only for their large-scale events, which kind of sucks in my opinion. Another suggestion was for an online version, which we just talked about. A lot of suggestions were for the game to become more competitive, especially by adding a best of 3 for the game to reduce variance. Unfortunately, Bandai didn't create this game with the intention of it becoming competitive, so switching ideals and making it more competitive can be difficult, especially the longer the game's life goes on, without making any changes. Other suggestions are to fix the energy system or Mulligan to be able to get that energy so you can actually play. I talk about this a bit in the last question, so we can discuss that shortly. Bringing the game to other countries is an obvious choice since the English game is only in North America. Better alt arts was suggested multiple times, as we saw multiple different opinions earlier. Something I agree with is increased hits and cases. Cases for this game are 16 boxes. That's a lot of boxes to only be guaranteed one 2-star and a foil AP. With some cards that could be less than $100, and with cases valued anywhere from $800 to $1,200, it's really not worth it when most decks can also just be built for less than $100. More life triggers was suggested to add new ways to interact and maybe help with the competitiveness of the game. Catching up to Japan is something players want, especially so we can actually compete in Worlds. If you're unaware, the player who won the grand finals at Bandai Fest Orlando was taken to Worlds, but was only able to play in a special exhibition match with the Japanese commentator. This was mainly due to the fact that we had 6 sets at the time and Japan had 35. It wouldn't really be fair to the North American player with the huge power difference, or to the Japanese players if they could only play the sets that we have. The last 2 suggestions obviously conflict with one another, but goes to show that players want different things. Some want sets released faster so we can catch up, and more releases allow more players with different interests to be able to play, while others want sets to come out slower because of things like money or just wanting to enjoy the meta for more than a few weeks before having to learn a whole new set. And for the final question, just by looking at the chart, you can tell there's mixed opinions. I mentioned that during Bandai Fest World Tour in Japan, the Union Arena Grand Finals game ended with one player not being able to play a single card due to not seeing a 0 energy card. Now, do you think the current rules should be changed to accommodate this? Now, coincidentally, or maybe not, the next announcement for Union Arena regarding a large-scale event was Gen Con, when they added that the finals match will be a best of 3. Who knows if this is specifically because of this reason, but I'd put my money on it. I think there's a lot of conflicting opinions, especially since most of us come from other card games, but I think all these options are viable. But if Bandai was to look at the Mulligan rules or energy generation rules, they may do something specific to Union Arena instead of copying another game. Maybe pay an AP to generate an energy once per game if you have no cards on your field, or take an additional Mulligan and lose an AP for each time you did. Unfortunately, with these types of rules, Bandai needs to make sure players can't take advantage of them. The third Mulligan and beyond is always risky, even when losing an AP or a turn, because it increases chances you see your deck's God Hand. Who knows what they'd actually do, but that's all the questions on the survey I had for you. Let me know if you have any questions you'd like to see on another one of these. If so, let me know down in the comment section below. And I think it's incredibly important for the community to speak up, and surveys are a great way to collect data from the players so the information is out there. And who knows, maybe we can bring change to the game if the right person sees it. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much to everyone that responded and to all of you watching. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to do so and check out my other videos. I have lots of content planned for the future, so stay tuned and I'll see you all in the next video.